Hi, I'm Milana. Welcome to another video. In today's video, we're doing a get ready with me for church. So the first thing that I wanted to do today was recommend a book. So the book that I have been reading this week is called The Book of Laughter and Forgetting by Milan Kundera. So Milan Kundera is a French and Czech author. He's dead now, but he wrote his books a long time ago. And most of his books are translated from Czech, and then I think some of them are translated from French. And so the interesting thing about Milan Kundera's books also is that I'm not sure if it's just because they're translated, but I feel like you need to read the whole book before you understand what it's about. Like, his books are like, you can't just read the first chapter or the first few chapters and understand what the book's about. Like, somehow you have to read the whole book, and I found that for all of Milan Kundera's books. So this one is called The Book of Laughter and Forgetting, and in one chapter he talks about this Czech word called Litost, Litost, and he explains that Litost is an untranslatable Czech word that means the pain that one feels when confronted with their own shortcomings. So he uses the example of a girl and a boy, and they're both swimming, and the girl has a crush on the boy, like she's in love with him, but he can't swim at all, and she's a really good swimmer. So they're swimming together, and she's pretending that she can't swim so as not to embarrass him. And because, like, he's a really bad swimmer, so he's flailing about, and then she's pretending that she can't swim. But then at one point she's like, well, actually, like, while I'm in the water, I want to be able to just be free and enjoy swimming, so I'm just quickly gonna actually swim. And then so she starts actually swimming, and then he is confronted by his own shortcomings when he sees her swimming and realizes that he can't swim, and so he experiences Litost. And then when they get out of the pool, he is, like, you know, feeling vengeful and hurt because he's been confronted by his own shortcomings, that he can't swim, and so he hits the girl, and then that dissipates his Litost, and he no longer feels Litost because after hitting her, he feels like they're equal again. And so, yeah, that's a really good book. I found that really interesting. Like, I find it really interesting that there are words in languages that are untranslatable. Like, you know, for instance, in German, they have words like Schadenfreude, which means the joy that you experience at others' pain, kind of thing, and others' misfortune. And I find it really interesting that there are words in other languages that, like, only this language has a word for this. So, yeah, that's The Book of Laughter and Forgetting by Milan Kundera. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about today was a recent interview that I listened to on Soft White Underbelly with a man who was ejected from a fighter jet at the speed of sound. So this interview had, like, almost 1 million views, and he shared his experience. So he was a fighter jet pilot, and he'd been doing this for, I think, like 3 or 5 years. And so he was reasonably experienced. And then one day, like, I don't know, something went wrong, and the fighter jet was going to crash. And so he had to eject himself out of it. And he said that he won, like, a record for the fastest ejection from a fighter jet that someone has survived. So he actually lived, and so he was ejected out of it. And then when he woke up in hospital, he, like, basically all of his bones had shattered. And so when he woke up, he thought that he was, like, under a weighted blanket. Like, he thought that he was under, like, a lead blanket, and he was like, why can't I move any of my limbs? And then he realized that he was actually paralyzed. And then they said, you know, you'll never be able to fly fighter jets again. And he was determined to be able to fly fighter jets again. So then he had to do all these like interviews and tests and stuff, and eventually they told him like, okay, you're out of your mind, but you can continue flying fighter jets. And he had to have all of this like procedures done and have like metal you know, robot things installed in all of his, I'm probably not saying this right, but he had to have like, you know, all robotic arms and legs like installed so that his limbs would move again. And then he went back to flying fighter jets for a while, but then I think he went like insane from the brain damage that he sustained in the accident. So like he actually didn't realize, but he actually had significant brain injuries, like traumatic brain injuries from the accident. And so then he started losing his mind, and he was like going into psychosis, and he thought that the FBI were like following him, and he started like hallucinating. And I think he said his wife was a psychiatric nurse though, so she like luckily knew how to take care of him. And then he was hospitalized in a psychiatric hospital for a period of time. And yeah, he said that like he started experiencing like hallucinations, like when they were driving to the hospital, when his wife was driving him there, he was seeing animals on the road and like all kinds of things. And he was just out of his mind, like in deep psychosis from the traumatic brain injury from this accident. But yeah, I think he said it's been like 3 years now since the accident, and he seems to have recovered extremely well. Like now he seems relatively well adjusted. Like he seems like a person who, you know, he's not visibly disabled, and he speaks like someone who is in their right mind. So he has seemingly somehow made basically a full recovery after being ejected from a fighter jet at the speed of sound. So that was a very good interview. I would highly recommend that. Thank you for getting ready with me for church today. You're beautiful. You're perfect. I love you. God bless you. If you're new, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel.